Hello, it's Aki Anastasiou and welcome back to What's Next in Banking, a series brought to you by Standard Bank. And we've been talking to the executives about, the role that Standard Bank plays in these professional services. And you may remember a few episodes ago we spoke to Elani from Laan, who is the head of legal and accounting at Strydom Bank Group, and she looks after the business and commercial banking customers. We spoke about accounting, and today we're going to be talking about the legal sector and lawyers and how these legal firms have transformed in the world that we're living in. Lovely to see you again. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Lovely to see you too. I'm doing great.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I've been reflecting on what we discussed when we had our recent interview about accounting, but I'm sure the legal sector, which is also part of your entire portfolio, is no different to accounting in terms of the changes that have happened in that industry, right?
No, they overlap quite a bit actually, and we do see from a digital perspective specifically also really a big evolution in how our professional clients, our professional sector clients are servicing their clients as well.
But is it as drastic as in the accounting sector where, you've got a lot of the heavy stuff that was done before by hand in accounting, and you had these different packages and AI doing a lot of the back end stuff? Is that creeping into the legal sector at all?
Absolutely, and I think there's a big differentiator where financial data and information is predominantly what our accounting sector clients are using to enable them more time to spend in advising their clients. What we see in the legal sector is actually twofold. From a practice management perspective, there's a lot more options for them to actually run their practices digitally in terms of being paperless. I think once the courts completely adopt with their case line systems, they'll be able to achieve that, to really run paperless systems. I think the only area where they'll struggle might be property transfers, but for the most part there's actually so many solutions that they can use to run their practices digitally. And then the second leg of that is what we do find is there are quite a number of firms actually popping up that run their businesses digitally, that actually don't necessarily have an office where they can consult with the client. They do all of that virtually.
Wow.
They have these solutions which they actually offer to their clients virtually. And you can imagine from an overhead perspective how that would really change the competition for a firm that typically has a building that they're renting, that they've got printers and items that they rent to actually run their practices. Yeah. So it's really changing the landscape and pushing the boundaries of how they're able to do their businesses today.
So how are you at Standard Bank innovating to stay ahead of the curve? Because you guys are the thought leaders, right? And you lead the pack, and how are you innovating to see and what's going to happen and forecast the future?
Well, I think
if there is such a thing.
Yes, I think I would be very arrogant to say that I could forecast that, but I think the key to that is really staying close to our clients, the ones that have already made that digital change, the ones that are resistant to some AI adoption or some more digital solutioning and running of their day-to-day practices, to really stay close to those customers and say, how do we from a banking perspective kind of slot into that, to say, if you're using more digital solutions, how are we going to enable you to actually optimize that? And I mean, this ties into the accounting sector as well. When we're talking about accounting software packages, these are packages that our law firms also use. So the better we get at integrating with those packages and really utilizing that data gives us the same kind of view and insights into our clients' businesses, which will then allow us to, without being arrogant, kind of predict what we might see in a cycle of a law firm. We would typically see November, December, January, very quiet months, where the turnover might drop. This doesn't mean the firm's going to go insolvent. This just means the data is telling us this is a typical cycle for a law firm.
Okay.
So I think in that way we are using that to kind of stay ahead of the curve in making sure that we are using those tools to our best advantage.
Yeah. Can you give us some of these examples that you talk about that law firms would be using? How would they use technology? Because what you're saying to me, it makes them a lot more agile. and they're able to focus on the important things, and technology is actually unlocking tremendous value within their business.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a lawyer's biggest commodity is time. You know, he sells time or she sells time for a living. You only have 24 hours in a day, and that means you still have to live your life as well while still practicing. So, whatever you can use as an attorney that's going to save you time, which you can then optimally spend consulting with your clients, maybe
Yes.
drafting legal proceedings, is definitely something that you need to be considering. And part of what I'm doing is also bringing awareness of the various options that are out there. It is perceived that only larger firms are able to subscribe to these types of packages, which is not true at all. I mean, there are very affordable solutions, and we're working on partnerships or let's call it alliances with those software packaging companies to say, how do we partner with you to make sure our enterprise clients, our new entrants into the markets, are able to also have access to that, where they are, for example, able to, by the press of a button, have all of their invoices generated for the work that they've done this week.
Yes.
So you input what you do during the week into your software package, and at the end of the week, and this is specific to law firms, you press a button and all your unbilled items are generated into invoices that you can then share with your clients. And I mean, it is really so fascinating how quickly this has gone and how much time you'll save, because typically an attorney would work for a week, and at the end of the week, or sometimes at the end of a month only, generate invoices for all of the files that they've actually worked on. Now this is so simple. It takes you 5 or 10 minutes.
And ka-ching, it's done.
Like this, it's done. Your invoices are generated. You can even automate them being sent from your computer to your clients.
Now listen, software as a service has changed the world
Absolutely.
dramatically, and as you say, it's available for everyone to use because you're just paying for the service. The bigger you are, the more you're going to use. But it's absolutely brilliant. What are the challenges that you're seeing in the industry at the moment?
I think for the attorneys, I think a big challenge is just that there was obviously a dip in the market. Interest rates going up has definitely caused a dip in quite a number of things. You know, property transfers has taken a bit of a dip, which we're seeing pick up as we speak. That's picking up, but I think that's also kind of taken a toll. We have seen a lot of businesses really struggle financially, and which is in one instance probably good for the insolvency practitioners.
Yes.
But that also does affect the client paying your bill at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And having the finances to actually do that. So I think that's something that they have been struggling with. But in the same breath, I think it's also just about being innovative about what you're doing in a practice. You know, placing reliance on just the traditional way of servicing, and I mentioned this in the accounting sector as well. There is a lot of scope for you to actually look at it. I had a discussion which was very interesting, very randomly, with an attorney who had broken away and started her own law firm during COVID. And I had a discussion with her about 6 or 8 months past COVID. I think it was in 2021 or so. And she said, you know, she's struggling with getting clients and keeping her business afloat. And I said to her, well, what are you doing at the moment? She said, no, well, she's got good relationships with the master's office. So she's been assisting a few clients with getting things done. She's quite effective in actually getting things done because she's able to sit there at the master's office, kind of wait to be helped. And I said, why don't you use that then? Why don't you build out a business using that? That's a skill that you've got that's really necessary. There is a lot of firms that will be able to use you and use that to build out your business whilst you're retaining and obtaining new clients.
Just be open-minded.
Be open-minded about it, yes. Yeah. And that is actually that was a business kind of idea for her that she explored and utilized, which...
I'm glad you mentioned the small businesses because, you know, everybody thinks of big law firms and obviously they can sustain, you know, through COVID, they survived a lot of that sort of stuff. But it's more difficult for smaller law firms. How do you at Standard Bank support those kind of guys?
Yeah, so we support them in various manners, and also I have mentioned this in the accounting sector session that we've had. Is we use our enterprise supply development team as well to really support the startup of these businesses. Specifically for law firms, we are looking at an initiative where we would be assisting with funding their annual fees that are paid to the Legal Practice Council,
Okay.
specifically for these lawyers, which can be a large sum of money for them to pay when they're just starting to get their businesses going. Making sure that they've got the necessary insurance while they're actually getting their businesses started. You know, small businesses feel like insurance is something that's a luxury, which really isn't when you're starting your practice. We are also working on, as I've mentioned, really looking at what a law firm's potential is in order to be more or smarter when we're looking at financing these small firms. So I think there's a lot of work that's going into that we really want to optimize and make sure that where possible we are able to support them in getting those practices started, but not just getting them started, also making sure they stay in business.
Because you know that long term they're going to succeed. It's
Exactly.
you bring in more customers, your reputation gets better, etc., etc. It's just going to show that scale of growth that they want, and that's ultimately what's going to happen, which is fantastic.
Exactly, and you know, it's a small firm is not the only one. A big firm's not, immune to failing or immune to struggling.
Yes.
So we want to kind of take that discipline right through. But what we do see is a lot of small firms failing just because they don't have the right tools in place from a day-to-day perspective. I have mentioned this before, you know, making sure that you're actually billing what you've done today, making sure you send out an invoice at the end of the day or at the end of the week at the latest, and kind of assisting these firms with affordable options from a practice management perspective to make sure they have the tools to actually do that.
Yeah.
You go through law school and you learn about the law, which is great. It's a good thing to have, but that you'll continue to learn throughout your career. It's not something you learn and now you're finished with it and you know everything.
But running a law firm
But
is
running a law
different
firm,
story altogether.
absolutely, and they don't teach you that at varsity. They don't teach you that. They try and teach you that through the Legal Practice Council as well. But even that information, actually taking it into your practice and practically applying it, is very intimidating for a new lawyer starting up his or her own firm.
You mentioned all these solutions and that sort of thing. It sounds like you're very proactively involved at Standard Bank in bringing those solutions to market to assist these small and big firms as well. So what is your plan over the next few years? What are you planning to do, within the legal sector, partnerships, solutions to help these businesses grow?
So we're building alliances with a number of partners that will be able to provide those solutions to clients, some which we're already partnered with, which will give the solutioning to our clients specific to their stage of their business. You know, start, manage and grow.
Yes.
And there will be solutions that we're partnering with that will be suited to each of those. You know, you'll have the Rolls-Royce solution for, let's say, one of your big five firms, and in turn a smaller one where these guys can actually start out and start building those disciplines out. So that's a big part of what we'll be doing. And then also working on, like I've mentioned before, you know, how do we look at credit when we're looking at these clients? We do find a lot of firms needing startup funding, and how do we build that out to make sure that we're really looking at transformation, making sure that we're giving the necessary resources to those businesses just starting out. There is a lot of work that we're doing with the advocates chambers as well, from a transformation and supporting advocates in their journeys in getting their businesses off the ground as well, which is just some of the items we're touching on for the legal sector in the future.
That's brilliant, and it's something that everybody needs in their life. When you have any legal issues, you need to speak to an attorney or an advocate, etc., whatever it might be. But it's part of life. You buy a house, there's a legal transaction that takes place. You sign a contract, there's a legal transaction that takes place. It's embedded in everything that we do in our lives.
Absolutely.
And what is your advice to legal professionals that are watching this right now, that are saying, okay, I need to talk to Standard Bank. I like what I'm hearing. What's your advice to those legal professionals?
I have a lot of advice. So I think
Don't study law. Don't say don't study law.
no, not
Okay,
at all.
good.
No, not at all. I have a lot of advice. I start off first of all to say, do you have a succession plan in place?
Great.
If you don't get a succession plan in place, it ensures that there's transferable value when you decide to retire or when you decide to sell your firm. If you don't have that in place, you're basically selling a bunch of files, which your clients are not going to go to somebody that they don't know and don't trust. So have a succession plan in place. I have mentioned previously as well our partner funding solution that we have made available to actually assist our attorneys to get that plan in place. Don't underestimate the value of the type of industry that you're in. In saying so, and this applies to accountants as well, is we underestimate how big the networks are of these attorney firms and accountants. They are connected to so many clients who
Very
are
true.
connected to so many clients. Don't underestimate it, because I do find sometimes our attorneys get lost in getting the work done. It's always a race against time. They don't really appreciate the value and the magnitude of those networks, and really use those networks to take your business to the growth that you need, and also to think about business opportunities, investment opportunities outside of the law firm, so that you have something in place for when you do get tired of the law, or you want to retire at some point, that you don't need to work until you're 95.
Diversify and be open-minded, because there are opportunities all over the place.
Absolutely. Don't just look at the law and get lost in the rat race of getting things done. Take some time in your day, even if it's just half an hour, to think outside the box. Again, as I've mentioned as well,
Yes, I
with
love
our
it.
accountants, think outside the box. Think about those things you want to do. Buy a franchise if you want to, so that you can have something that's running on the side while you're busy selling your very, very precious time.
Yes, that's wonderful advice. Elani van der Laan, thank you very, very much for your time, and really great advice. And, it's about being open-minded and thinking about your legal practice as a business. Think about the succession. Think about how you can add technology to really add agility and help you scale your business and take away all those mundane tasks. Let the technology do that. Be smart about how you run your business, and talk to Strydom Bank, because they've got the right solutions to help you in your legal practice. Thank you very much to Elani van der Laan, who is head of legal and accounting sectors here at Strydom Bank. She looks after business and commercial banking clients at Strydom Bank. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.